Good evening, members. Apologies for the late start. A couple of technical hitches. Welcome to everybody for this last Cabinet meeting of the year. So, fire alarm procedures. If the fire alarm is activated, vacate the offices via the stairs. Please do not use the lifts. Assemble in Hawley Square on the Green. Officers will assist you and advise when it is deemed safe to return to the chamber. Please switch off or turn to silent your mobile phones and do not make or receive calls whilst the meeting is in progress. Please note this meeting is being live streamed for members of the public. The meeting will also be recorded and will be subsequently broadcast on the internet. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? I believe that's no, Charles. The following members have asked to speak under Council Procedure Rule 20.1. No, you do not wish to speak, Councillor Orban?
I don't really. I just feel it's just a nice evening and listening to you guys.
All right.
Highly important.
You're obviously taking advantage of the nice warm environment in here this evening. So, Item 1 is apologies for absence. We have no absentees from the Cabinet this evening, Charles. Item 2 is declaration of interest. Does anyone have an interest to declare in the items of business on the agenda this evening? Item 3 is minutes of previous meetings. To approve the summary of recommendations and decisions of the Cabinet meeting held on the 17th of November 2022, a copy is attached to the agenda pack. I propose that we approve the meeting. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bob Bayford. Do members agree? Agree. Item 4, decarbonisation of the Council's housing stock. To introduce Councillor Jill Bayford.
Thank you, Chair. The journey to net zero is the strategy and approach that we intend to take to reduce greenhouse gas emission from the Council's social housing stock. It supports the Government's aims for decarbonisation by achieving net zero by 2050 and links into the Council's adopted net zero strategy. This strategy will have a high impact on our tenants as it will reduce fuel consumption, making council homes warmer and more comfortable using less energy. The work we carry out will be disruptive for tenants who will also need to learn how to use their homes and new technologies installed differently. This is already the case with our new build programme, where officers need to ensure that they can show tenants how to make the most of the features installed in their home. This document does touch on the expectation of the performance of new builds, but its main focus is on our current housing stock that is less energy efficient. The strategy has 3 objectives, and these are to improve all properties to EPC C by 2030, to reduce energy consumption for residents, and to offset carbon emissions. The objectives are underpinned by 3 principles. Firstly, tackle our worst performing properties first. Secondly, fabric first, no regrets. This means that we will ensure that our homes are well insulated first and that we do not install new untested technology that has to be removed again later on. And thirdly, meaningful resident involvement. It is predicted that the overall cost of decarbonisation would be around £40 million. Therefore, exploring different funding opportunities, such as the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, Energy Company Obligation, Local Authority Livery Scheme, and Home Upgrade Grant. Plans are already in action as there was an opportunity to bid for funding in the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund in Wave 2.1. We've applied for funding for retrofit works to 5 of our 6 tower blocks. The proposed works will see all flats in these blocks achieve the EPC rating of C or B. The bid for around £4 million will, if successful, form part of an ambitious programme of refurbishment with a total value of around £22 million, including further funding coming from Homes England for the replacement of external wall insulation and contributions from the Council's approved Housing Cabinet programme. We propose to partner with MEARS, appointed through a compliant procurement framework, for the delivery of the programme, and MEARS have provided significant expertise to support the bid process. The early identification of a delivery partner also adds weight to the bid submission and ensures the deliverability of the proposals. MEARS are already the Council's partner in contract for responsive repairs and have a track record of delivering decarbonisation projects. If we are not successful with the social housing decarbonisation bid, we will still need to replace the external wall insulation with funding from Homes England. But it would be far better and more effective to complete these programmes simultaneously. Once the full scope of works for the programme are known, a further report will be considered by Cabinet prior to entering into contract. I move the recommendations set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. Does Cabinet have any questions? Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David Saunders. Do members agree? Okay, Charles. So moving on to item 5. Jill, I hope you've got your lozenges with you this evening for your... So item 5 is Housing Estate Strategy, Policy and Standards. To introduce, Councillor Jill Bayford.
Thank you, Chair. Our residents have told us that the condition of our estates is very important to them. The tenant and leaseholder services have used resident feedback from customer satisfaction surveys and 2 focus groups to develop these documents. The strategy is the vision they have for the estates, and it describes 4 objectives that they believe will enhance our estates as a place to live. These are to promote community, improve estate appearance, have better vehicle management, and make the estates a safer place to live. The strategy also describes how we will approach the estates to achieve the objectives and how we will prioritise the estates for review and improvement works. An estate policy is a regulatory requirement. It applies the rules around how the strategic objectives will be delivered, letting all stakeholders know the part they play and their responsibilities. The estate standards lets our residents know what work we will do to maintain and take care of the communal areas in and around our blocks of flats. This includes communal cleaning, communal repairs, ground maintenance and car parks. It lets residents know what they are responsible for, including the storage of belongings in communal areas and disposal of refuse. I move the recommendations set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. Any comments from Cabinet? Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor George Cupp. Do members agree? Agree. So item 6 is Housing Service Standards, Repairs and Lettings. To also introduce again, Councillor Jill Bayford.
Thank you, Chair. Service standards are a set of commitments to our residents. They give information about the level of service they can expect from us. They also guide our office to the level of service they should be providing. Residents were involved in the development of these standards. The Repairs Service Standard describes the service that is delivered by our partnering contractors, MEARS and Gascor. It gives information to our residents about what to expect from our repairs service. For example, the different ways in which they can report a repair, how long different categories of repairs will take to be carried out, and how an appointment will be made. Much of this standard is dictated by the contracts we have in place. Residents had the opportunity to feed into the standards of behaviour expected from the operatives and call centre staff. The letting standard tells residents what they can expect when they move into one of our homes. It lets them know what will happen when they sign a tenancy agreement, what information they will receive, and what standard to expect their new home to be in when they move in. To ensure this document is relevant to new tenants, we completed a survey with new tenants from the previous 6 months. Their feedback informed this service standard. I move the recommendations set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. Any comments, Cabinet? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rees-Pugh. Do members agree? At this point, I think I'd like to mention that obviously there's the 3 items on from the housing area, and I think it's a reflection on how hard our housing team works. So thanks to the Director of Housing for all the work, because there's a massive amount of work that goes on behind these documents. So I'd like to pass on our thanks to the housing team, and thank you, Councillor Bayford, for presenting those items. Thank you. So another busy area, department area, the finance area. So item 7 is the budget monitoring report, quarter 2, 2022-23. To introduce Councillor David Saunders.
Thank you, Leader. Change of voice. This is the second budget monitoring report for this year. We are forecasting an overspend of just over £1.9 million against our general fund revenue budget. One of the main factors causing this overspend is the additional demands in the housing service with more homeless placements. In response to this, the Council has reviewed and is delivering its homelessness strategy action plan. We are regularly monitoring the levels of homelessness and have been recruiting more staff and commissioning new services to address the increasing need for support. Our financial pressures are detailed in the report, but include additional agency staffing requirements in the waste and recycling service, higher gas and electricity costs, and also include income shortfalls. I know and can confirm that this Cabinet is determined to improve the commercial performance of this Council, and in this respect I am pleased to report that I am recommending that we appoint 2 property surveyors who will be tasked with increasing our property income streams. I'm assured that we can primarily fund the forecast overspend of £1.9 million from applying a £1.1 million expected surplus from our retained business rates income. However, the Cabinet remains committed to ensuring that the Council has a sound financial footing, and this has been at the front of our minds when developing next year's budget. And I'm pleased to say that as far as next year's budget is concerned, I think the Star Chamber arrangement has been very fulfilling and given everyone the opportunity of explaining their position, and then that tasks the financial team with going away and squaring the circles in some instances. Moving on, our General Fund capital programme is showing a substantial underspend. This is in part due to the phasing and timing of a number of grant funding projects, some of which are recommended to be slipped into later years of the programme. I am also pleased to report that the HRA is forecast to largely come in on budget, and that's due again to our housing team, etc. Finally, there are a number of budget adjustments that are detailed within the report that are recommended for Cabinet approval this evening. As such, I move the recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Yes, I would agree also that this administration has always said that we haven't stretched our estate income revenue anywhere near as much as we should have done, but this is due to past lack of funding and resource, which is now hopefully being addressed, and I'm sure that it will be a much more sustainable position regarding revenue income from that line. So Councillor Saunders has moved this. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rees-Pugh. Do members agree?
Agreed.
Thank you, members. Well, I think that actually concludes the business for this evening. Don't think I've quite broken Councillor Pugh's previous Cabinet record, but might be due to the overrun that was caused by me in the first place. So thank you, Charles. I've closed the meeting. And thank you, members, and I'd like to wish everybody that I won't see before Christmas a very happy Christmas and look forward to a healthy new year. Thank you, members.